Okay, let's learn. Okay. So in this week's parsha, Parshas Vayakhel, the Torah starts like this: Vayakhel Moshe es kol hadas b'nei Yisrael. That Moshe Rabbeinu gathered all the Jewish people together, everybody, men, women, and children. He gathered everybody together. Vayomer Elohim, and he said the following: Sheish es yamim tiyasim malacha. That so says Hashem. 6 days you should work. But v'yom hashvi yilachem kodesh Shabbos laHashem. The 7th day of Shabbos. Okay. The opening mitzvah in this week's parsha is the mitzvah of Shabbos. So the question is, why is it that the mitzvah of Shabbos had to be introduced? L'kol hadas b'nei Yisrael, everybody, men, women, and children. I don't know, when the Torah says the mitzvah of tzitzis, it doesn't say that Moshe Rabbeinu gathered all the Jewish people together. It just says Moshe Rabbeinu told the Jewish people. Why is it that by Shabbos, the mitzvah of Shabbos is Vayakhel Moshe es kol hadas b'nei Yisrael? The Moshe had to gather everybody together, everybody. There couldn't be one Jew left out. Everybody had to be gathered together. That's the question. Why is Shabbos? What's the significance of Shabbos in that aspect? That's the question. Okay, so usually we end off with a story. This time we'll start off with a story too, to give a little bit of an introduction of what we're going to be talking about. There's a Maisa. You forgive me, I don't remember the names exactly of the people involved, but the Maisa goes that by the Baal Tanya, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, 1 year during Tisha B'Av, on Tisha B'Av, so Tisha B'Av night, right after Eicha, one night by the Baal Tanya after Eicha, so there was a visiting Rebbe. Again, I don't remember the name of this Rebbe that was visiting, but there was a visiting Rebbe along with the Baal Tanya spending Tisha B'Av with him. So after Eicha, all the little, again, all the adults were, again, laning Eicha and saying kinnis and crying and, doing the mitzvahs of Tisha B'Av. And the children were in the back of the shul playing with like little sticky little things that they were throwing at each other. Okay. So the story goes that there was one chassid. Again, I don't know exactly what his deal was, but there was one chassid that instead of being with all the adults, saying kinnis and everything, he was playing with the kids, throwing little sticky things at the kids. So, this guy's mazel. So the one sticky thing that he threw, he misfired, and it went straight into the visiting Rebbe's beard. So, and then he's, the Rebbe's trying to pull this thing out of his beard. By the Rebbe's, their beards are like very special, and he pulls out a hair, and he's very upset about it, and so he goes over to this class and he says, "It's because of people like you that Beis Hamikdash was destroyed." That's a harsh statement. Okay, fine. So the next day after davening, the chassid people, that chassid that threw the thing in the Rebbe's beard wasn't at shul. So the next day after davening, after the whole kinnis and everything, so in the afternoon, the Baal Tanya and this visiting Rebbe were taking a walk in the forest, talking about whatever they talk about, and they hear a strange voice, like a crying, like a screaming sound from the forest. So they follow the sound and they go deeply in, and they see that it's this chassid, and he's neck deep in the swamps in Russia, wherever they were over there, and he's crying and he's screaming out the kinnis. The same chassid that was playing games the night before. So then the visiting Rebbe, seeing that this guy, how seriously he takes Tisha B'Av, he goes to me and says, it's like people like you that the Beis Hamikdash is going to be rebuilt. So yeah, the same chassid, the same person, who the night before the Rebbe said about him that he's destroying the Beis Hamikdash, and the next morning the Rebbe said about him, you're someone that's building the Beis Hamikdash. So this contradiction, this chaos in life of ups and downs, building the Beis Hamikdash and stopping it, God forbid, from being built. That's something that all of us go through every single day. There are parts, literally from 1 hour to the next hour, we could have in our lives in certain days in time where we're proud of ourselves, right? We do big mitzvahs, we sacrifice whatever it is that we want for the service of Hashem, for the sake of helping another Jew. Times in our life where we're building the Beis Hamikdash. And then the same day, like it could be like 3 minutes later, we do something that we regret, that God forbid we're not so proud of. And it's like things like that hold Mashiach from coming. The lives that we live are lives of mamish chaos, where it's very hard to be consistent. You have ups and downs. And the truth is that it's specifically the closer we get to Mashiach, that chaos, that roller coaster of having times in life where you're proud of and having times in life where you're not so proud of gets stronger and stronger and more chaotic and more chaotic. Let me read you something from Rav Tzadok HaKohen. Rav Tzadok, again, one of the great Hasidic masters, he writes the following thing. Listen to this. He says, "B'mei nu'urim," in the times of youth, when a person is young, so resichas hatayv miskaberes, a person has a big Yetzer Hara when they're young. There's a strong Yetzer Hara. V'azmar b'chatoim mitzara Yetzer, and that's the time in life where a person commits a lot of averos, God forbid. Naturally, he's inclined to do not such good things. V'hem chatas nurim, that's what's called in Tanakh the sins of young people. When a person's young, he has a strong Yetzer Hara. So says Rav Tzaddik, just like when it comes to a person, an individual person, when they're immature, when they're young, they have a strong Yetzer, so too it was with mankind. In mankind's infancy, in mankind's immaturity, we had a very strong Yetzer during the times of the Mabul, right? And when in the humankind's infancy, when we first existed, we had a very strong Yetzer. V'zeh haya b'dar Mabul. So that was the generation of the flood. The generation of the flood had a tremendous Yetzer, just like a young person has a strong Yetzer. And he goes on to say, V'heim atzmam oisa hanfashas. Now those neshamas of the generation of the flood came back in a Gilgal, in a reincarnation, in the generation of the Dar HaMidbar, of the generation of the desert that received the Torah. The lowest generation, the worst generation, the Dar HaMabul, the generation that Hashem saw that there's no hope. They have to be completely obliterated, except for one person, Noach. The lowest generation came back in the next life to be the highest generation. Why? Because he says it was that same passion that in their first life brought them to do Averis. In their second life, the same passion brought them to follow Hashem in the barren desert. Like the pasuk says, "Zacharti lo chesed nu rayich," that Hashem said about the generation of the desert to receive the Torah, that He remembers the passion of their youth. That same passion that in the first life brought them to sin, in the second life brought them to unbelievable heights. And he says like this: "V'darish shel Mashiach," and the generation of Mashiach, the last generation before Mashiach comes, oz yipam shlishis oisei hadar. That generation is going to come back a third time in the generation before Mashiach. And therefore he says, V'oz yetikna gomer. And therefore he says, in that generation, there's going to be tremendous ups and downs in each individual person. There's going to be parts in his life, in a person's life before Mashiach comes, where you're going to be as bad as the Dar HaMabul, as bad as the first generation, as the first life. But then there's going to be other times, maybe in the same day sometimes, in the same hour, where you'll be as great as the generation of the desert, the generation of the people that receive the Torah. It's because that those neshamas are the same neshamas that just keep on coming back. The closer we get to Mashiach, the more of chaos there is, the more unbelievable energy there is built up in us that sometimes pull us one way and sometimes pull us the other. Like the story with the chassid, that sometimes it's the same person that destroys the Beis HaMikdash, it's the same person that builds the Beis HaMikdash. It's mamish a life of chaos. Now this life of chaos that we're all familiar with, that we all struggle with, that parts of our lives we want to just forget, and parts of it we want to remember. This is what every single one of us has to go through during the 6 days of the week. You know, if any one of us davens by a minyan on Shabbos, that's Nusach Sfar, that's Hasidic at all, so you'll notice that before Mincha on Friday night, the Chazan said, everybody says a certain piece of Tehillim, Haidul Hashem Kitav Kilam Chazda, before they start Ashrei. So that's something that the Baal Shem Tov instituted. The Baal Shem Tov said that the last davening in the 6 days of the week, a person should say that Kippur Tehillim. Why? So Baal Shem Tov said because that Kippur Tehillim it encapsulizes everything that is the 6 days of the week. And what do we say in that Kippur Tehillim? So there's a number of things we say. One of the pasuk is, it's describing a person davening to Hashem. The pasuk says, Ya'alu Shemayim, that sometimes the person soars to heaven. And sometimes the same person, Yerdu Tzahaimas, goes down to the depths. Ya'alu Shemayim, Yerdu Tzahaimas. Pasuk says, Yichaygu ve'inu kishikar. Sometimes a person wanders and it bangs into walls like a drunkard. And then other times, V'yitzaku el Hashem. Sometimes a person screams out to daven. Ya'alu Shemayim, Yerdu Tzahaimas. That's the story of the 6 days of the week. That's what each and every one of us goes through constantly. Times that we're Ya'alu Shemayim, times that we're mamish, building a Beis HaMikdash, times that were similar to the generation of the receiving of the Torah, the Dar HaMidbar, and sometimes it's Yerdu Sahim, it's mamish to the bottom of the depths, like the generation of the flood. It's mamish a roller coaster, mamish a roller coaster, and that's why in the 6 days of the week there are 6 days. Why there's 6? So there's a very famous teaching of the Maharal. Maharal was a great Makubal in the 1500s. Maharal writes in many places that the number 6, which is this world of chaos, this world of ups and downs, the number 6 represents all four directions, right? North, south, east, and west, and up and down. All different directions, being pulled in all 6 directions. That's what this world is. It's mamish chaos everywhere. You know, again, sometimes in the highest heights, and the same day, in the same hour, sometimes even in the same time, a person could be in the lowest of lows. It's a world of mamish chaos. Mamish chaos. So what's the eitzah? You know? So the natural inclination then, during the 6 days of the week, during the time when a person is stuck in this battle, is to, I don't know, do what you can. Forget about the bad times and just hopefully focus on the good. And you feel connected to Hashem when everything is good, and you feel completely distant when everything is bad, and you try to just focus on the good. That's as most a person could possibly do. But there's one gift. There's a gift that Hashem gave us. That's the gift of Shabbos. That's the 7th day of the week. What's the 7th day of the week? So Maral says, even though 6 is chaos. 6 is all 6 directions. The 4 corners, up and down. It's all over the place. What does 7 mean? 7 means taking all those 6 corners and you're pulled in all different directions. But 7 is that one inner point. The point in the middle that holds everything together. That's what 7 is. That's what Shabbos is. You know, there's an unbelievable medrash. Listen to this. Medrash says that Adam Rishon, you know, we all know that Adam Rishon sinned. He ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And he did as much tshuva as he can, whatever. But we know that things didn't go back to the way they were. So we know that he had 2 children, right? He had Cain and Hevel, right? And we all know that Cain killed Hevel, right? So when Hashem confronted Cain, when Hashem said to Cain, Kol demei achicha, the sound of your brother's blood is calling to me from the dirt. So what did Cain answer? Cain said to Hashem, Gadol avayim insai. He had a thought of tshuva. He said, my avera is too great to bear. That's what he said. So the Medrash says the following thing. And therefore, again, the pasuk goes on to say, therefore Hashem didn't kill him. Hashem just gave him a lesser punishment, that you'll have to go into exile, right? You'll exile all over the world. That's what happened. So listen to the Medrash. The Medrash says that after Cain had that discussion with Hashem, and again, he thought a little bit of tshuva, and Hashem therefore eased his burden. The Medrash says that Cain left Hashem and he met Adam Rishon. He met his father Adam. So Adam said to Cain, B'ni, ma hoya b'dincha. What happened in your judgment? What did Hashem paskin? So Cain said an unbelievable thing. Cain said, Asisi tshuva, I did tshuva, v'nispasharti. And me and Hashem, we made a deal. That's what he said. V'nispasharti, we made a pshar, we made a deal. We came to the middle. So Adam Rishon said, Kachi gadol koyach tshuva, that's how great tshuva is. If I knew how great tshuva was, I would have done something right away after I sinned. Miyad pasach v'omer. So immediately Adam said, Mishmar Vayakhel HaShabbos. The song of Shabbos, he said that capital till that we say on Shabbos. Mishmar Vayakhel HaShabbos. What in the world? What does one have to do? Because he hears that Cain did some level of tshuva and he made a deal with Hashem, all of a sudden he's singing about Shabbos. What does Shabbos have to do with that? So what is the Medrash telling us? The Medrash is telling us like this. Cain thought about doing tshuva. Cain said, Gadol avayim minisai. My avera is too great to bear. Process of tshuva. He didn't do 100% tshuva. He just admitted to himself that he did something wrong. He admitted that it's Gadol avayim minisai, that my life is completely chaotic. I'm talking to Hashem. I'm having a prophetic experience right now. And at the same time, I know that I just killed my brother 10 minutes ago. I'm being pulled in all 6 directions. The same time, I'm talking to Hashem about the lowest point of my life, about the fact that I killed my brother. It's mamish chaos. It's mamish roller coaster. I'm building and destroying the Beis HaMikdash at the same time. God, my avera, I can't bear it. I have to just forget about it. I don't know what to do. So Hashem said, you know what? There'll be a time to do 100% tshuva to fully fix your avera. But Hashem revealed to Cain that there is such a thing as being able to tolerate opposites. There's such a thing as being able to live with yourself knowing that you've done things wrong. So Adam Rishon said, Kachi gadol koyach tshuva, that there is such a thing, that Hashem gives a person the strength to, even though he's living in mamish, being pulled in a million different directions. Everything is ups and downs. But still he's able to deal with it and able to handle it. So Adam Rishon miyad pasach omer. So Adam Rishon opened his mouth and he said, "What? Mizmar shir liyom haShabbos," because that's what Shabbos is about. Shabbos is a time where, again, we have different holidays, right? We have Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is a day where a person is separated from this world. We have Purim, where a person is mamish thrown into the world, eating and drinking till there's no seichel at all. Shabbos is the time, the 7th day, where that point, that nekuda pnimis, that inner point, which pulls together all directions, that gives a Jew the ability to eat the way you should eat, to walk, have a good time, but everything is incorporated into the world of holiness. Shabbos gives a person the ability that, I've done crazy things in my life. I've had ups, I've had downs. And Shabbos tells a Jew, don't forget about everything you've done. That's not the idea of Shabbos. Shabbos is, Shabbos is about that when you come to Shabbos, just understand that even though in the 6 days of the week it might seem that you've done terrible things, and it might seem that Hashem is so distant from you, you're mamish all over the place. Shabbos tells a Jew that even in the most darkest of places, even in Cain when he was killing his brother, the lowest point in his life, still there is some kedusha there. Still Hashem is with him, and Shabbos gives a person the ability to maintain, to understand that it's true that there's ups and downs, but even in the ups and downs, in every point, the lowest of lows, Hashem is still with you. There's a point holding a Jew together, no matter whatever direction he's being pulled to, driving him and pulling him in the right direction towards Hashem. You know, Maral says in a few places that if you want to know if there's one halacha about Shabbos that defines what Shabbos is about, the Maral says it's the halacha of Haitzah, of not being able to carry from Rishus Vayakhel, from a private domain to a public domain. He says because when it comes to Yantif, we have a lot of the halachas of Shabbos and Yantif, but the one thing that we don't have, and any day except for Shabbos, is that halacha of not carrying, of not taking from private to a public domain. So why? So that's the essence of Shabbos. If you want to know what the essence of the holiness of Shabbos is, it's that halacha. What does that mean? So according to what we're saying, the explanation is very simple. The world that we live in, of 6 days of the week, of being pulled in all 6 directions, that's public domain. That's a Rishus Harabim. That's a Rishus Harabim. Rishus Harabim means a world of multitudes, of all different things, of a world that you can't see any unity, a world that in one time it's great, another time it's terrible, a world that there is life, babies being born, and then there's people dying, Rahman al-Atsan, a world of complete and utter chaos. That's Rishus Harabim. Shabbos says, remain in the Rishus Vayakhel. Keep yourself in the private domain, in the Rishus of the Yechida Shel Olam, in the place of oneness. Shabbos says, don't go from a private domain, a place of oneness, to a place of multiple. Recognize that on Shabbos, everything is one. Recognize that on Shabbos, even though a person has gone through all the stuff that they've gone through, it's crazy. It's crazy. There are times in the 6 days a week, like we say in davening, Yalu Shemaim, we go up to heavens, and Yerdu Saimis, we go down to the depths. But Shabbos says there's such a thing as making a deal with Hashem, meeting in the middle. That even though you're not completely on a high, that everything is not great all the time, you're like Cain. There's sometimes you kill your brother, and sometimes you're talking to God. But nevertheless, there is such a thing as making a pshar with Hashem. There's such a thing as making a deal. That even in all that chaos, you're still bound, you're still held together. You know, the Gemara says that when Mashiach comes, the harp that they used in the Beis HaMikdash to sing songs when they brought sacrifices, in this world, the Gemara says, when the Beis HaMikdash was built, it had 6 strings. But when Mashiach comes, when the whole world will be Shabbosdik, the Gemara says that it's going to have 7 strings on it. What does that mean? So the Maral says in a number of places the same idea, that singing, when a person sings, in the Beis HaMikdash, when they had a harp and they sang, singing means when everything comes together in a beautiful harmony, right? If you just have one note, that's not a song. And if all different multiple notes going at the same time without any harmony at all, that's not a song either. What's a song? A song is when you have highs and you have lows, and everything even though every single one, you have a violin and you have all different types of instruments, and they all sound different and they all seem different, but they all come together in harmony. So the world of Shabbos, the world of Mashiach, what is that world? That's a world where everything is harmonic, everything is coming together, even though it seems that everything is completely separate and completely chaotic, but Shabbos says, no, even in the darkest of places, you can find a harmony and a balance. So the kinnor, the harp of Mashiach, of Shabbos, is 7 strings, not 6. There's a medrash. Listen to this medrash. The medrash says, the pasuk says about Shabbos that Vayakhel Hashemayim v'aretz, that Hashem finished the creation of the world on Shabbos. So again, the question is, we all know that Hashem stopped working on Friday, right? And Shabbos was completely rest. So what does it mean that the pasuk says that Hashem finished working on Shabbos? Listen to this medrash. Medrash says that the world without Shabbos can be compared to a wedding hall without a chassan and kala. That's what the medrash says. Imagine you go into a wedding hall and you have there's no chassan and kala. There's nothing going on. All you have is just you have a band and you have people eating. It's complete. You have no idea. You have no understanding of anything that's going on. It's complete chaos. But when the chassan and kala come in, now everything makes sense. Now it makes sense why on a Tuesday afternoon when everybody's wearing suits and Shabbos clothing and singing and dancing. It's a chassan. There's a chassan and kala. So the medrash says the world without Shabbos doesn't make any sense. The rule about Shabbos is like going to a chasana without a chasana kala. Nothing makes any sense. Why are we doing this? You're going here and you're dancing in a circle, and over there you eat it. Like, what's going on? Shabbos gives meaning. Shabbos brings everything together in the most beautiful way, in a harmony. That's what Shabbos is about. That's what Shabbos is about. Shabbos gives all of us the ability of taking all the multiple things, all the chaos, all the different directions in our lives, and bringing them all together in harmony. You know, on Shabbos day, after Yishtabach, after Baruch Hu, Shabbos day, we add in a special tefillah. What's the tefillah we add in? So we say like this. After Yotza Arav Choshech, right? We say Osa Shalom V'Varei Sakol. We say Hakol Yaducha. Everything praises you. Hakol Yishabchucha. Everything says praise to you. Hakol Yomer In Kodesh LaHashem. Hakol Yomer. Everybody praises you. Yotza Hakol. You created all things. Hakol. Everything. Why do we add in that tefillah on Shabbos? Because that's what Shabbos is about. Shabbos is about everything coming together in perfect sync. Shabbos tells a Jew that even though during the 6 days of the week we can't see everything together, it doesn't work like that. In the 6 days of the week, fakert, there's difficult times in life, there's good days and there's bad days, and we want to forget about the bad and only focus on the good. But Shabbos is about hakol. Shabbos is about everything coming together. In Shabbos, there is nothing left out. Everything is brought in to the private domain, to the domain of the Yachid, of the Yechid Shalom, of the oneness of Hashem. That's what Shabbos is about. Therefore, on Shabbos, we add in this davening, Hakol Yaducha, Hakol Yishabchucha, everything, Hakol, everything is together. You know, there's another thing we add in on Shabbos, the davening of Shabbos. In the Pesukei de Zimra, we add in the Halal HaGadol, Hodol Hashem Kitov, Ki Liolam Chazdo, right? A bunch of Hodol Hashem Kitov, Ki Liolam Chazdo, Ki Liolam Chazdo, Ki Liolam Chazdo. Why do we add that in? Because that's what Shabbos is about. In that tefillah, what do we say? The Sichon Melech HaMori, Ki Liolam Chazdo. We thank Hashem for creating Sichon, an enemy of the Jewish people. Og Melech HaBashan, Og, the king of Bashan. Ki Liolam Chazdo. We thank Hashem creating Og. So it doesn't mean, L'holech Amay Bamidbar. Thank you, Hashem, for bringing the Jewish people into the desert. You know, in that Hallel, we're praising Hashem not only for the good things that happened, not only for the fact that Nosin Lechem L'chol Basar, that He gives food to everybody. That we understand. We understand Osa Shemayim V'Aretz, that Hashem created all heavens and earth. Thank you. But we're also thanking Hashem for creating Og and Sichon and bringing us to a desert, difficult times. That's exactly what Shabbos is about. That's exactly what Shabbos is about. Shabbos is about that don't think that there are ups and downs. There are good times in life, bad times. You have to forget about the bad and only focus on the good. Shabbos tells a Jew that in all the 6 directions, everywhere you might be feeling that you're pulled in all different places. And you might feel that God only exists in this area in life and not in that area. Shabbos says, Ki l'olam chazdai. The chesed of Hashem is forever in every single part of life. In every single direction of the 6 directions, you can find that inner point pulling you back. Even for Og, even for Sichon, even the most difficult times in life, a person is able to thank Hashem on Shabbos. That's what Shabbos is about. This is what gives the Jewish people the strength to know and to survive. You know, if we didn't have Shabbos, I mean, it's mamish incredible not having Shabbos. Because without Shabbos, then you could mamish fall apart. Then how could a person exist on such a roller coaster of ups and downs? It's not possible. Shabbos gives the Jewish people and every single one of us the strength to recognize and to remember that even in the darkest of places, Davka, there you could also find Hashem. That's what Shabbos is. That's why on Shabbos we wear different clothing. Every aspect of life is included in Shabbos. A person doesn't just it's not like a regular day where you just like can't do work. You wear special clothing, you eat special food. You ever thought about it? It's a strange thing. I mean, by the nations of the world, all they have is like their culture with food. You know what I mean? Like you take away, I don't know, potatoes from the Irish and like, alcohol from the Irish, then what are they? Well, they're no different than anybody else. It's like, what defines them is their cuisine, right? By us, it's not like that at all. Who cares about kugel and cholent? It's completely meaningless. We're having pizza right now. It's completely meaningless. We're not Italian, right? We're not defined based on what we eat. So why is it that all of a sudden, but on Shabbos, we have like a menu. It's like a mudna thing that the Jewish people have like a thing, gefilte fish, and there's kugel, and there's cholent, even Sfarad, they don't have gefilte fish, but everybody has fish on Shabbos. There's such a thing that we're connected. All of a sudden on Shabbos, we have like special foods. Why? The Gemara says that a person's not supposed to walk on Shabbos the same way he walks like during the week. Every part of life, all the parts in life where, that's the last thing you think about when you think about God. Eating, walking, putting on clothing. These aren't the areas that you think about when you think about God. That's like that part of life. That part of life that's out there, that's disconnected. Going to shul, davening and learning, that's Hashem's domain. But that other area, that's other people's domain. On Shabbos, everything is incorporated into Hashem's world. We eat differently. We speak differently. You're not allowed to talk about certain things on Shabbos. You know, the Gemara says that Rav Shimon Vayakhel, we wouldn't be allowed to say this, but the Gemara says that Rav Shimon Vayachel's mother, the Gemara says, was a dabronis. She used to talk a lot. So the Gemara says that on Shabbos, when Rav Shimon Vayakhel caught his mother like rambling on, he would say Shabbos, Shabbos. He would remind her that at Shabbos, and then she would quiet down. That's what the Gemara says. Because Shabbos, during the week, talk all you want. You know what I mean? Because that part of life, that's not Hashem's. That's not Hashem's world. You can't say lashon hara, stuff like that. But the point that Rav Shimon Vayakhel was telling his mother that on Shabbos everything is Torah, everything is Shabbosdik on Shabbos. Everything has to be on Shabbos. So we started with a question, and the beginning of this week's parsha is what? Vayakhel Moshe's kol adas b'nei Yisrael. That Moshe gathered all of the Jews together, men, women, everybody. And what was he going to tell them? The big news that he had to gather everybody. Sheishes yomim tasim malacha. 6 days of the week you could work. For Yom HaShvi is Shabbos Kodesh Hashem. The 7th day is Shabbos. So yes, why is it that Moshe Rabbeinu had to gather everybody together for this one mitzvah? So the answer is very simple, because that's exactly what Shabbos is about. Shabbos is about everything coming together. Not having, just like in life, you can't have one aspect left out, because Shabbos is about bringing everything into unity, bringing everything into Hashem's domain. So too, when Moshe Rabbeinu gave over the mitzvah, it had to be in such a way to show that everything is incorporated in Shabbos. Like we say in davening, Hakol Yeducha, Hakol Yishabchucha, everything has to be incorporated. Everybody had to be there to hear about Shabbos, because if you had one thing missing, then you're missing the boat on what Shabbos is about. So this is so important for us, because again, we live lives where we get depressed with ourselves. Again, we know each one of us, like the pasuk says, Lev Yodea Maras Nafsho, that everybody's heart knows his shortcomings. We all know parts in our life where we're proud of and parts in our life where we're not so proud of. Shabbos has to be mechazik a Jew. Shabbos has to give a Jew strength, that even in the lowest of places, he's still connected to Hashem. He's still able to meet Hashem in the middle. Eventually we'll get to the madrega where we'll do complete tshuva and fix everything. But until then, Shabbos gives the person the hope that there's such a thing as, like Cain said to Hashem, there's such a thing as meeting Hashem in the middle and being able to deal with the burden of a person, of shortcomings, and being able to handle that, and to know that sometimes even the lowest events eventually are there to help him. And even on the lowest things, we could say on Shabbos, Ki L'Olam Chazdo. And let me read you the words of Reb Tzadok HaKohen again. He says like this: Al Yitam Ha'adam. A person shouldn't wonder. Imir Rishai Misrabim Ba'olam. A person shouldn't wonder if you see, as the generations go on, the world gets worse and worse. Don't question. That's not a question. Don't think about that. That every single day, evil seems to grow in power in the world and in each individual person. He says, Ki Yeda, because a person should know, Hashem is in control of his vineyard. Hashem is in control, like Gemara says, and he knows his vineyard more than you. Meaning, this world is Hashem's backyard, right? He knows how to take care of his backyard better than you. And it might seem to us that the world is mamish going down the toilet, and everything is getting worse and worse and worse, and the world is getting is like, just flying out of control in all different directions. Hashem knows more than us. Hashem knows more than us. And he says, the Gemara says, Shemen David Efshe Sheyava Bidar Shekulei Chayev, that Mashiach could come in a generation that's completely unworthy. That's what the Gemara says. The Yamin Melch Kasha Kamen Shishu Shuv. In 1 second, Hashem can make such a thing happen, where everybody just all of a sudden, from the lowest points, could just automatically be awakened to do tshuva. It's possible. He says, the Gemara says about different generations that they're beloved to Hashem. And he says, the generation before Mashiach comes, for sure is going to be beloved by Hashem. And he says, and even though that last generation could be looking like the generation of the flood, could be the lowest people on earth, they could be the worst generation. But it could be flipped over in 1 second. In 1 second, it could be flipped over to the most beloved of generations. Because Hashem will awaken us to do tshuva. A person has to remember this, that there's no such thing as part of life being disconnected completely. That part is cut off and there's no hope. Even in those areas where a person feels and seems most disconnected, in 1 second, from there, a person could reach the highest heights. From the generation of the flood, a person could be flipped over in 1 second to the generation of the midbar. In 1 second. You know, Rabbi Tzadok writes the following thing. You know, the Gemara says that before Mashiach comes, there's going to be a characteristic of chutzpah. The Gemara says that before Mashiach comes, chutzpah yazgi. There's going to be a tremendous madreg. There's going to be a tremendous character of chutzpah facing the world. The Gemara says, you know, Zakein Na'arim Pnei Zakein Yalbinu. Young people will embarrass elderly people. Chutzpah is going to be rampant. So the Rabbi Tzadok says that a person shouldn't think that that's just, you know, they're just terrible. That generation is going to be terrible. He says, no, that same midah of chutzpah, which if harnessed by the Yetzer Hara is the most disgusting of all things, if it's harnessed in the proper way, could bring to the greatest of all things. He says it's the chutzpah of that last generation that's going to give them the strength to do tshuva. Because a person will look at themselves now in this world, and as closer we get to Mashiach, the more crazy the world is, and they'll say to themselves, how in the world could I do tshuva? Hashem is not interested in me. My life is so down, it's so chaotic, that there's no way how Hashem is interested in me. But Rabbi Tzadok says, no, that chutzpah that you have, use it for good. Use that chutzpah and tell yourself, you know what? I don't care. Hashem's going to hear from me whether he wants it or not. I'm going to daven whether Hashem's interested or not. Chutzpah. The same chutzpah that sometimes, God forbid, is used in an evil way, it could be harnessed for good. Because even in the lowest of places, even there, Hashem's presence is felt. Shabbos tells a Jew that even in chutzpah, in the worst of the character traits, even that itself could bring to the highest of heights. Ki la'olam chazda. That's what Shabbos is about. And this is what the chizik that we all have to take from the beginning of this 6th parasha, Vayakhel, that Moshe Rabbeinu told us that Shabbos is about every part of life coming together. A person should not be ashamed of any event in his life. A person could be, you know, feel bad about what they've done and try to do better next time, but not to forget and to just, like, you know, completely give up on that area of life. Chas v'shalom. There's no such thing. In every area of life, a person is able to uplift himself and to return to Hashem, remembering that in every direction there is a point of Shabbos bringing you back home. That's what Shabbos is about. I'll end with a Maisa. You know, they say a story. There was a Ganef. It was a story with the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, I think. The story goes like this. There was a certain Ganef in Mezebizh. That was where the Baal Shem Tov was from. He was, again, you know, a from guy, not so from, whatever. He was a Ganef, so he couldn't be that from. So, he, you know, that was his thing. He just, you know, he stole from people. Hopefully, Goyim. I don't know if it's any better, whatever. So that's what his thing. He was a Ganef. So every time that he, you know, pulled off a heist, and, you know, the cops, like, you know, they caught on to him and they were chasing him, whatever, or he was afraid that he was going to get caught. After he stole, he would quickly run to the Baal Shem Tov and ask for a bracha. And the Baal Shem Tov, you know, he knew what the guy was doing, so the Baal Shem Tov gave him a bracha anyway. You should be matzliach or whatever. I don't know, the cops shouldn't find you. And that's every time this happened. You know, whenever he stole, he would always go to Baal Shem Tov for a bracha, and the cops never found him. Okay. So it's going on for years, you know. So the story goes that one time, you know, he stole something. And you know, he really messed up. I don't know. He left a fingerprint or whatever it was that the cops were really, you know, they were really after him. So he really had to get to the Baal Shem Tov. So he ran as fast as he could, going to the Baal Shem Tov. And he goes to the Beis Medrash, and he asks around, "Where's the Baal Shem Tov? I need to get a bracha." So all the Chassidim look at him. The Baal Shem Tov died. He died a few weeks ago. You're too late. So the guy's like, now I'm stuck. So he says, "Okay, so who's? You know, I need the next best thing. Like who took over after him?" So they point him to the Toldos Yaakov Yosef. He was Yaakov Yosef from Isterpol. It was again a student of the Baal Shem Tov that took over after him. So he goes to the Toldos Yaakov Yosef and he says, "No, Rabbi, I need a bracha." He says, "Well, what for?" He says, "I just stole whatever it is, and the cops are on my tail. I need a bracha to get out of this." So like, I'm not giving you a bracha for that. Get out of here, you ganef. So he said, "No, every time this happened, I always went to the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov gave me a bracha." He says, "I don't know. You're saying stories. I don't know. I'm not giving you a bracha to help out your Geneva." So the guy's like, "Okay, now what do I do?" So he said, "Okay, listen, if the Baal Shem Tov is not in this world physically, at least let me go to his grave. I'll daven by his kever." So he asked around where the Baal Shem Tov is buried, and he went to his kever. And the story goes like this. That he went to the kever, and he sat on the kever, and he said like this. He said, "Baal Shem Tov, how could you have left the world? It's terrible that you left the world." He said, "Nowadays," he said, "all tzaddikim just want the best students. They just want to teach the top of the line, you know, the smartest people, the holiest people." They told this Yaakov Yosef, "I'm a little ganef, I'm a no goodnik, whatever," and he kicked me out of his Beis Medrash. He said, "The Baal Shem Tov, only you were the type of Jew to teach that you were the Rebbe of even Ganovim, of even thieves. You were the Rebbe of even thieves. And therefore, Baal Shem Tov, it's terrible that you left this world, and I need an eitz, I need help." So he, you know, and he was crying, he was sobbing, and he fell asleep, the story goes. And in his dream, the Baal Shem Tov came to him in his dream and told him that, Yankel, the Ganef, whatever, he said, you're davening, what you said about me, what you said that there are tzaddikim in this world that are only interested in teaching holy people, but the Baal Shem Tov was interested in teaching even Ganavim. It made a tremendous awakening. It mamish shook up the heavens. And the Baal Shem Tov said to this Ganef in his dream, and he said, if right now, if you want to do tshuva, if you want to return to Hashem, there's an unbelievable opening. You have mamish an opening based on what you said. And in his dream, the person, he awakened himself to do tshuva, and the story goes that he became one of the greatest Hasidic Rebbes of the generation. That's the mice that they say. So every single one of us, it's very nice. We all want to, it's very good teaching holy people and being holy and all that. But there's a special chachma, there's a special wisdom of being able to know how to be the Rebbe of even thieves. And every single one of us, at certain times in life, we're not as great as we should be. And there's times in life where we're no better than this Ganef. But a person has to remember that it's the same, just like the Baal Shem Tov cared about this Ganef, Hashem cares about each and every one of us, even in the lowest points of our life. Even in the lowest points of our life. And from the lowest point, if we remember Him, if we remember about Hashem, about serving Hashem, even in the darkest of times, if we remember Shabbos, remember that everything has to be incorporated into Hashem's world, then even from there you could become mamish like the Dar HaMidbar. From the Dar HaMabel, from the generation of the flood, all the way back to the Dar HaMidbar. So if you remember this, we have to hold this very strongly, because the world around us there's terrible, terrible depression that's being forced on this world right now. Terrible depression. People feel terrible about themselves, whether it be consciously or subconsciously. People feel in a tremendous state of chaos. The world seems to be very chaotic right now. We have to hold on to Shabbos. Shabbos brings unity in this crazy, chaotic world. And if we hold on to it and we remember, every single day of the week we have to remember Shabbos. If we remember Shabbos and we remember what Shabbos is telling us, that Moshe Rabbeinu is gathering all of us back to Hashem, then we will be Zaycha, Bakar of Mamish, to be able to uplift ourselves from the lowest point to the highest point and be able to greet Mashiach Tzidkeinu with Meher V'Yameinu. Amen.